Bod ar pawb, Elary dwi'n gweithio ar BCT ac swyddog polisi dwi. Diolch am ymuno am digwyddiad a gostau byw am croeso canes heddiw. Mae'n hyfryd gweld cymaint o bobl gyda ni bore yma, felly croeso eto. And don't worry if those of you who don't speak Welsh, that's about as much as I can manage. I've started learning and I'm trying to practice and drop it in wherever I can. Apologies if I butchered any mutations or anything like that. But what I was saying is, morning everyone, I'm Elary, I work at BCT and I'm the policy officer. Thank you for joining our event on cost of living and warm welcomes this morning. It's lovely to see so many faces and people with us this morning, so welcome once again. Yeah, we're doing this event as part of our series of cost of living events. You may have been to a couple beforehand, and we will have some in the new year coming up. Just to say, obviously the event is being recorded. If you don't want to appear on a recording that we might publish and share with attendees, feel free to put your camera off, but do stay with us. Standard kind of typical rules, stay on mute unless you're speaking, keep your camera on if you're happy to be recorded and if you're willing to appear in that recording, participate where you feel able to do so. If you'd like, you might want to add your organisation into your screen name. It's by no means compulsory, it just might be helpful. Obviously, we're here to learn from one another where we can, so please be respectful of others' opinions and experiences. And if you've got any tech issues, Mark Faulkner, my colleague, is the one to go to. He's just the tech wizard behind today. So he will be the one to sort things out. And there's a couple of BCT colleagues in the room. I've seen Gwen and Sean as well. I'm sure if there are questions that I can't see popping up in the chat, as I'm sharing my screen, they'll be able to respond as well. Just to say, the running order for today is I'm doing this little preamble, and then there'll be a couple of speakers. I'm hoping we're going to have a second speaker as well, who's turning up. I'm not sure if they're in the room yet. We've got Dayle Gibby from Milford Youth Matters, who's here today, who's going to speak to us. And we've already said how glorious the weather's looking in Milford Haven today. And our second speaker, hopefully, will be Claire Pugh, who is from We Are Plasmatic near Wrexham. So we've got quite a good spread. We're covering quite a lot of Wales today between Milford Haven and Wrexham. Once you've heard from both our speakers, there'll be a chance to ask some questions, and we'll put you into some breakout rooms to have a number of discussions as well. We don't want this to just be you listening. We want participation and sharing ideas where you can. So without further ado, I will crack on, except my screen now is frozen. So there we go. Perfect, it's working again. Just to say, we're doing this as part of our membership of Community Movement Cymru, Mudiad Cymunedol Cymru, and that is kind of what it says on the tin. It's a collection, it's a movement of community organisations throughout Wales. Some of them are grassroots community, very locally based community groups. Some are organisations like ourselves who provide support to those much smaller grassroots community organisations. And there's three things that you can get out of your free membership of Community Movement Cymru. Get the opportunity to network, and we are really trying to provide that opportunity for groups to network and share learning with each other. You also get the opportunity to influence and shape policies at a local and national level. So it's, as I say, it's free to join. We're trying to grow the membership a little bit, and I think my colleague Mark is able to put in the link in the chat to find out a bit more information about Community Movement Cymru. We're growing it, and we've been kind of fostering it as we go along, but we're really keen to grow the movement a bit more moving forward, and it's a really good opportunity. And if I haven't said it enough times, it's free as well, so it's worth doing. One of the things we're talking about all the time in these cost of living events is the financial support that is available to individuals. I'm sure you're probably well aware of these schemes at the moment, but it can't be bad to just remind you. once more. So there are 3 ones that we're going to highlight. The Wales Fuel Support Scheme, where eligible households can claim a one-off £200 cash payment from their local authority. There's also Welsh Water Help with Bills, which has a number of ways to make bills more affordable, including social tariffs. And there's also the Discretionary Assistance Fund, which I'm sure you're all aware of, which consists of emergency assistance payments to cover essential costs. Again, I think all the links will be put in the chat, and we will make sure that there's further information sent out to attendees after this event as well. So you'll be pleased to hear, I'm going to stop talking to you now. I'm going to hand over to Dayle Gibby from Milford Youth Matters, who's going to tell you a little bit about what they're doing in Milford Haven. So I'll stop sharing, but over to you, Dayle.
Thanks, Hilary. Hi all, I haven't got a presentation, so I'm just going to kind of talk, and if people have got questions, I'd rather a bit of more of an informal chat, really. My name's Dayle Gibby. I'm the project manager of Milford Youth Matters, which is a third sector charity based in Milford Haven. And we work with young people from the ages of 11 to 25 and serve a youth population, probably of that kind of age group of around 2,500 young people. Now, our projects and our activities cover that whole spectrum. So when we say we work with young people to 25, those young people aren't always accessing youth clubs. They're more be accessing our 16 to 25 provision. So kind of the 11 to 14 age range, that's more of our universal services, access to provisions such as youth club, our physical and sporting activities. 14 plus then, we're still seeing them engaging in those, but also now encouraging more volunteering and kind of the social development. And then 16 to 25 is around that employment training, volunteering, and developing those skills for life. So yeah, we do quite a lot really on that spectrum. Kind of cost of living, really, I think we was very naive when we first started as a youth charity, thinking that we'd only support young people. I think we learned very quickly and very early on that these young people have families, they have siblings that are younger, older, they got, parents. So actually as a charity, although we're constituted to work with that age group, we're finding now that we're kind of working with families and becoming a bigger intervention service for the whole kind of family age range, which is okay, because I think if it's affecting young people, we need to respond. How we've done that really is in a number of ways. Very early on, we provided direct support, kind of injected quite targeted support to young people, kind of very much, things like warm packs and everything like that, focusing on heating the person, not the home, heating the family. So we provided very bespoke, individual, direct support to young people on a level. However, we have to now kind of realize that this cost of living crisis and poverty is not going away. Unfortunately, I think, especially in our community in Milford Haven, we find that there is members of the community that don't see themselves as in that bracket of in poverty or in need. However, when it comes to it, we are supporting them with things like the basic foods, the heating of the homes. We've bought, as staff, have had to go out of our way and buy socks and trainers for young people because the family can't provide that. And there is a role there that the local authority need to step up with. However, we recognise with the cost savings, the budget pressures that they're on, more and more pressures are coming on third sector charities to respond. As a third sector charity and kind of as community groups, I think we're in a unique position. Firstly, we're able to mobilise quite quickly and we're able to respond to our community needs very quickly. I think we're on the ground, we're at times, kind of local authority levels and wide organisations is a bit slow to get going. Also, we have access to funding that other parties might not be able to access because we hold those statuses of charity, CIC, CIO, or constituted community group. So At the moment now, I think we're in a bit of a perfect storm. We're seeing need increase in our communities, and I'm talking for Milford, but I'm guessing it's probably very similar across the board. Need is increasing. That is only going to increase. That's only going to grow. However, capacity is staying the same and delivery is staying the same. So we need to find a way that we can work with our communities to bridge that gap and bridge that deficit of support for young people and families. And how we do that, there is not one way that is a right answer, because if somebody had a right answer, they would have bottled it up and probably sold it by now. So what we need to do is look on a community level and tap into those responses where and when appropriate. I go back to those families that don't see themselves in need. They're not accessing in our community kind of the typical food banks. They're not accessing, direct support services. I think this is something we've learned is because there is a pride to it. Young people and families aren't seeing themselves as worse off as others. So they don't feel like they need to access a food bank. They don't feel like that they're, it's dignified enough that they want to go and access that support. So what we've had to do is work out ways to provide that support and inject that support while still distributing the needs that the kind of families in the community want. It's almost very much like getting your kids to eat vegetables. You kind of blend it up and hide it. So what we've had to do is work smart around that. And how we're doing that is, like I mentioned, we've done the direct support of, food packs. We've done winter warmer packs. Brilliant. That's fantastic. However, that's only going to address now and not the long term. So I must say I'm part of the Hubbardston and Hakin Invest local forum in our community. So we have received funding from them, and as a forum, I think we've been very proactive in addressing this and allocating funds to be able to respond quickly. And I think that's what we need from funders at the moment. If there is people that do provide grants on the call, is that response needs to be quick, it needs to be measured, and what we got to look at is what is the outcome and not the output. So the outcome is that we're providing direct support to X, Y, and Z. And I think what we need to be able to do is mobilize quickly. And that's what we're trying to do. However, in the long term, Milford Youth Matters now, like I said, we've been able to access some grants. Typically, they all end at the 31st of March, which is very similar to maybe a lot of Welsh Government grants. Great user, sum of money, but you've got to spend it by 31st of March. Unfortunately, this cost of living crisis is going to last a lot longer after the 31st of March. So something I said to our forum at our recent meeting was, whilst there's lots of support there at the moment, we need to be planning and preparing for April onwards, because this is going to be long term. We've introduced now winter warmer nights, and initially our plan was we'd open up the football club in our community, and we provide young people with a hot meal and a dessert, all tea and coffee, watch a film from 5:30 to 8. Now, we toyed about giving this out for free, and I'll come back to that, but we ask for a 50p donation. And we do that because families and young people feel like they're getting a bargain. They're not getting it for free, but they're getting a bargain. They're getting a 2-course home cooked meal for 50p. And that brings back to that dignity around that families, parents are feeling like they're paying for it. And with that, then it becomes that investment. Now, what we've said is if you're a young person and want to volunteer, you eat for free. So each night now we probably get about 60 volunteers. But that option is still there if people do want to pay. And that's some of our own learning in our community. So our winter warmer nights we launched, and best way I can describe it is as a luncheon club for young people. They come in, there's a film on, they have a cup of tea, they have a hot drink, they have their meal, they have a dessert, more hot drinks. But what I first thought of is, it's only going to be the meals. That's all we're going to do. However, projects like this grow. Next thing you know, we're getting young people cooking. They're coming in and they're volunteering. each night they're arguing who's going to be in the kitchen cooking. And like that, if you want to cook, that's absolutely fantastic. So actually, we've seen an opportunity now to capitalize and invest in on those skills. So the meals that we cook are those basic home cooked meals that can be replicated at home at low cost. So we're now not just providing meals, we're educating young people in how to do it. So we've taken young people shopping with us to go, your budget to cook for 60 people is £45. Price up your mince, price up your sausages. So what we're trying to do is instill that level of education amongst young people that they can go home to families or on their own and go, oh, actually, we can cook a bolognese for less than a fiver to feed 6 people. Brilliant. And now we're upskilling them to train them on actually how to do that safely. So what we're doing now is we're providing a meal, we're providing a warm space, we're upskilling young people in actually developing those key skills. We're teaching them that, okay, with your fiver, yes, you can go buy a cup of coffee from Greg's and a bacon roll, or you can go to Lidl's and buy X, Y, and Z and feed a family of 6. And young people are learning from this and kind of thriving off this and being able to go home then and go, oh, we tried it. It works. My family are delighted. So then I thought to ourselves, right, how else do we respond? So now we've introduced at our winter warm nights, have a go at home packs. So every night, whatever they cook, there'll be 30 packs of the ingredients there. All the young people can take home a pack to have a go of cooking. So we did pasta bake last week, and to do 30 packs to give out to young people cost us around £80 worth of shopping in Lidl's. So it is not massive expenditure, but the investment is long term. So that's one element that we're trying to address. And then is around that social kind of activity, getting young people in. It's not youth club because that provision already exists. If young people want to access our services and those, that's perfect. However, this is a bit of a luncheon club. And actually we found the first night, I think I had about 13 people booked in, and I thought, oh, if we get 10 to 13 people a night, brilliant, pat on the back. Our first meal that we did, we had about 76 young people kind of queuing at the door to come in. And I thought, well, this is a lot. So back to my catering days of working in a restaurant and how we can cook for that many people en masse in a very small kitchen. It's great to see, but it's sad that need is there. But yeah, young people, we're encouraging that volunteering as well. So kind of whilst we talk about the poverty and the cost of living crisis, is yes, we can provide and inject that support to our communities directly, but how do we upskill in and making sure that there's some lifelong learning for young people? And that might not happen in all communities, that might not happen in all cases. For example, we do a kind of typical youth club, we do Friday night football, we do Monday night football. These are opportunities for young people to engage socially, physically, and promote that well-being. They might not feel like they're learning any new skills, but actually they are taking away something. And it's those hidden, softer skills that we're trying to promote. What we are looking at as well is the Children's Commissioner, Sally Holland, previously released a charter for change in addressing how the cost of living is affecting families, young people, with things such as a school uniform and just generally the cost of sport clothing. So we was very fortunate. We opened something called a pop-up shop. That's where I am now. I'm in a back kind of staff room. And the idea of this is that we provide low-cost, pre-loved uniform and sportswear to young people at low cost. So instead of buying new, which might cost £120, you can come into us, get a t-shirt, a jumper and a pair of school trousers for £11. These are good quality, they've been washed, they've gone through the quality process of young people are checking. So what we're trying to do is make it accessible to families and young people. And that's grown now that the shop is selling coats, it's selling pre-loved sportswear, and we are seeing footfall of families coming in going, oh, I'd rather buy secondhand, good quality, than go and have to buy new. Because people are now considering, well, if I go and spend £30 on a jumper new, or I can get like for like new, but call it pre-loved for a £5. It makes sense. So we've done that now, and we were fortunate to be supported by the local authority to start this. And there is another number of reasons again why we're doing this. One, to address child poverty. Unfortunately, Pembrokeshire has one of the highest child poverty rates in Wales. So we needed to respond. We needed to find ways of doing that. So firstly, we're addressing child poverty, low cost items. Two, it's to provide vocational and hands-on training for young people that are 16 to 25. Once again, looking at those investments and skills to aid their transition into employment. We're developing those inter and interpersonal skills that will only aid them when applying for local jobs. Thirdly, we are looking at generating an income for a charity. Whilst that will never cover a staff wage, what we're able to do with the income from the shop is we reinvest it back into young people. So we've had young people that want to do lifeguarding courses that have been offered jobs. Well, the funding that we get from the shop is cyclical. It's very much a social enterprise, so it's reinvested. And finally, it's an environmental factor. If we're getting pre-loved uniform in, instead of it going to landfill, we've been able to kind of sift through, wash, clean, iron, which is the main of the life at the moment. Ironing clothes, I don't even really iron at home anymore. But yeah, there's that environmental factor. So we've been able to do this on a community level. And I'm not saying that every community has to open up a shop or run meals, but it's understanding what is happening in your community and what's not happening. And there's lots of good practice out there of work that is going on that can be replicated. The model of delivery can be taken off the shelf, but what that project then looks like can be adapted to yourself. And it's not always been easy. Like I said, there's times where staff and personally, we've had to buy items for young people because they don't have X, Y, and Z. And unfortunately, the demand on our service as a charity is increasing. And like I said at the beginning, capacity is reducing. So whilst we say that, we have to be managing a budget or managing our kind of finances, the need is increasing, and that puts pressure on us. So we have to mobilize, like I said, much quicker, be more responsive to grants, and actually that investment in time needs to be much more managed. Because once we are still trying to run an organization, but we're also trying to support our community where we can and what young people want and need. And, we use need. How do we know that they need it? It's if young people and families come and go, oh, I want to be able to access X, Y, Z, we have to respond. And we've never turned anyone away. It's, utilizing that community is the best that we can to access that support. So really that's just a kind of a nutshell of Milford Youth Matters and the work we do on top of our kind of youth club provisions, which sees about 50 young people come in a night. We introduce things like Toasty Tuesday. So we're giving young people a hot meal. Food is a great equalizer. Young people, only love food. If you can provide free food, fantastic. And they do love a freebie as well. Stuff as like the winter warmer packs have been great to distribute to young people, because firstly they feel like they've either won something or they've got something out of it. But deep down we know that you've got a hot water bottle, you've got an oodie, you've got a scarf, hat, gloves. That we're responding quite quickly to that need. So I'm happy, Larry, to take any questions. If people want to have a look, we got a Milford Youth Matters Facebook page. Pretty much all our work goes up on there. You can have a look and see some of our practice there as well. But yeah, if people want to have a chat and ask any questions, I'm happy to try to answer anyone.
On that note, does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Dayle? Looking for any raised hands or anything? Looking at the chat as well. No immediate questions to ask? I'm going to abuse my position as chair then, and just so how long have you been doing your sort of winter warmer nights and your what is it, have a go at home packs? How many months, weeks have you been doing this?
7 weeks. We started, yes, tonight's going to, well, tomorrow's going to be our 8th week of running them, and we grow from, we've had around 60 a night, 70 a night. Half term was busy, so there's no rhyme or reason to the amount of people that we get. Some young people come and don't eat and just want to be around their mates and socialize. So yeah, we've done it for 7 weeks now. This week's our 8th week, and next week now we're going to provide a Christmas dinner for everybody. So it's be a bit more of a special event. We're going to cook for the young people. You know, the tables will be laid out quite nicely, and we'll kind of do silver service to them, really. So we've budgeted £45 a night for our meals. Now, to cook for 60 people on £45, we did find it was quite difficult. However, you know, we're doing things like sausage mash, beans, gravy, hot meals that are, like I said, easily replicated at home and that can be cooked en masse quite quickly. So we've tried to do a 4-week rota. So week 1 is bolognese, then, like I said, sausage mash, then we might have a chicken curry, then pasta bake. But we're trying to chuck variants into that then as well. So instead of bolognese, we might do meatballs. So young people getting a bit of kind of variation to that. And once again, it's that skills that we're trying to develop, is that, okay, this is how to make meatballs out of mince. You know, you don't have to go buy them that are really small, and, you know, you can go to the butchers and get some mince, or go to Lidl's. It's the same quality in making these meatballs for your families. So yeah, we're 7 weeks in. We're going to be running it up until the 31st of March. However, I do think the demand, like I said before, unfortunately, we've gone to 31st of March because that's when all the funding deadlines go. Make sure all your money's spent by then. Okay, but if we're looking long term, you know, it feels like there's 500 days in January. It does. So how do we address, you know, these periods of time now where we've got funding? Fantastic. But after April, you know, cost of living isn't just going to go away like that. Child poverty isn't going to go away like that just because our funding deadline goes away. So we need to look at now what this continues, what support is out there, and how projects evolve. Like I said, it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. And I touched on the winter warmer again. I forgot to mention is some of the young people that are volunteering, I would say, aren't as academic, you know, maybe kind of engaged very well vocationally, have those vocational skills, but academically might struggle. So we've been able to provide qualifications for young people, which is just another layer that we're kind of investing in young people. And we do that by using Agorad Cymru's. Previously, we've done workbooks, but actually we can voice record now the answers. So we can say to young people while they're cooking, oh, can you tell us 3 ways you provide good customer service? Press record, they give us an answer. That's their question 1 done. Oh, can you tell us, you know, what would you do if a customer said, I want to bring this back? Voice record, and they're able to work through their qualifications that way. So once again, we're looking at now how we invest in those skills, but also young people recognize, get some sense of achievement from it as well, which can only enhance their CV, but also enhance their self-efficacy. And it's really hard as youth workers to go, how do you measure the success of your work? Because it's just pool and ping pong. Yeah, part of my time is I do play pool and ping pong, but actually there's so much more. We're not like a school where we have GCSE results or A-level results. We are answerable to funders on outcomes, but we measure something called self-efficacy, which is the belief in a young person's ability. So we get them to do maybe a self-efficacy questionnaire when they come in, when they first engage with us, and actually they score very high. But actually, when we start looking at it and going, right, you've said you strongly agree to that you always manage to solve difficult problems. Well, let's put some of these in place then. and challenge your perception of that. We put them in place and they go, well, actually, I don't strongly agree because I haven't. And the self-efficacy will drop. And sometimes that's a good thing because that's a truer, picture of where they are. And then we can inject interventions to once again raise that self-efficacy back up. So that's how we do it as well. So by providing qualifications and seeing that vicarious learning and seeing that other peers are supporting and that their peers are succeeding, once one person gets their qualification certificate, yeah, look what I've achieved, everybody else is like that. How do I get that? So that's how we try to kind of evolve our service as well.
Thanks, Dayle. That's really, really helpful. And I think it's testament to show just how flexible you can be and how innovative. Now, I know there's a couple of questions popped up now. So Lowry, I'll come to you first, and then James, I'll come to you afterwards. Okay, so over to you, Lowry.
Hiya. Yeah, thank you so much, Dayle, for sharing. It's really awesome to hear like all the stuff you've got going on and really like speaking my language, using food to solve all the other problems. I was going to ask, nearly lost my question then. I was just going to ask how you guys are planning to approach like the Christmas holidays, because I appreciate you were talking about like staff capacity and the need, and obviously the school holidays, you probably have even more need and probably have people using the services even more. And I was just wanted to hear a little bit about whether you're seeing that and how you guys are trying to manage that, really.
Yeah, so what we're anticipating that need is going to increase, whilst we finish for Christmas, I think right up on the deadline when schools finishes on like the 23rd, and we have a week off, and then we're back. But what we're trying to do is communicate with young people and go, right, okay, just to let you know, our last youth club session is then. So we're not just dropping, last night, that's it, we're done now for the next couple of months, see you soon. What we're trying to do is communicate with young people to prepare them that, okay, services and that the provisions that they are so used to are going to be off for maybe a week or two. And in that time, we are working with families to go, right, okay, we're off, but there's other agencies that can support. Is there anything that you need now? Is there anything that we can do? And yes, talking to these young people and saying, right, have you got X, Y, and Z? And being very direct. We've been able to build good relationships with young people to ask them quite directly and go in, have you got X, Y, and Z? Have you got this? Are you prepared? Is there anything you need from us? What can we do? And I think that's the best way we've had to deal with it. Instead of kind of going around the edges, is being quite direct and saying, what do you need from us? If we can't do it, is there somebody else that can support you? Yeah, and in food as well, once again, like I said, it's a great equalizer. It brings people together. So what we are planning for is, kind of Christmas hamper packs for young people. As what we try to do it is instead of just giving it to them, congratulations, you've won a hamper pack, and then they feel like, oh, I'm not just getting it for free, I've won it. So we will be providing like hamper packs that will have some of the basics in that might not be at home, or young people might not have. So your nice treats, because everybody deserves something, to have a Christmas that is a bit of a sweet treat. But also, kind of hot chocolates, biscuits, just any emergency numbers. So it's all there that they can respond to them quite quickly. We're trying to move away now, really, from, like I said, back to that education element of trying to move people away from the level of crisis to self-managing their own interventions. So yes, there's always going to be people at a crisis point, but if we can educate and inform people to make those choices and upskill them, hopefully they transition from that need of dependence to independence, while supported by us. And I talk about mainly young people, because there is sometimes that reliance on that they come in and, they're expecting youth club on. Right, okay, but just remember, youth club isn't going to be on for the next 2 weeks because X, Y, and Z. However, this is what's happening up until that point. So it's a lot of communication and managing kind of expectations as well, that we're trying to do. Thanks.
Is there anything you want to come back with, Lowry, or are you happy with the
No, yeah, no, I was just wondering, it's one of those tricky ones, isn't it, where in an ideal world you'd probably be like, yes, we'll stay open longer or we'll have an extra week, but it's really tricky to try and manage that around the funding you've got. But yeah, I think that's really, really good way of going. So thank
Yeah,
you.
funding is our biggest issue at the moment as a third sector charity, and as many community groups would know, is I think I read somewhere, and we're experiencing it now, that when I first started Milford Youth Matters in 2016, it was every 1 in 4 funding applications were successful. Now it's around 1 in 11. So, you know, my staff and myself at the time is we're very face to face, but then on the weekends we're writing funding bids, we're writing applications to get these, what I would say, small pots of money in with very limited chance of actually being successful. And what we're doing is we've got to kind of think of the idea, respond to the need, write the funding bid, then wait to hear if we're successful. So we're kind of almost cart before the horse sometimes. And this is why the winter warmer is that, well, we've just gone and done it. We'll find the funding at some other point. Local organisations that have stepped up to help us with that. But yeah, we just had to respond. And that's why my cry to funders is this is, you know, a crucial time and a crisis point for many families, but also for many organisations as well. You know, trying to find core costs, kind of salary costs, because it will have a knock-on effect. If potentially if there's no Milford Youth Matters, then what does the youth provision look like? I like to call it the invisible pound. You invest, I don't know, £1 into Milford Youth Matters, but actually, how much does that save our community? How much does that invest in our community? How much does that save the health board? How much does that save the police service? And whilst they're all different funding pots, there's a social kind of and moral kind of reasoning to it that actually, if we're investing in young people and into services that directly benefit young people, there's going to be savings across the board. And that's what we're trying to communicate as well, of going, well, if you invest £1 into us, then what we can do is, you know, if we prevent one youth crime, that's potentially £2,300 saved to our local force. So we're trying to communicate that to funders and our community as well. But yeah, funding, many organisations are on the same boat. It's getting harder out there.
I've been nodding along. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm sure many other people are nodding along as well, even if they're not on camera. And there are some funders in the room here, so hopefully
this is important. That hold us back. We've got to be able to be responsive to our communities. We've got to try. You know, what I say to staff is, as long as it's safe and doesn't cost thousands of pounds, do it. We've got to be flexible in our approach. And what we've done lately is we've got about 20 young people now that are what I call our steering board. It seems to grow every day, really, that they're supporting funding applications. They're involved in the decision making and what we do. So all our income from the shop, how it's spent, is decided by young people. And I feel like I have a moral duty to run any spend past them. The other day, we had to buy trade waste bags. We had to sign up to something and do that. And then I went back and kind of told the young people what I did, and they were like, "Well, you didn't bring it to the group." I was like, "Yeah, but we had to." So we had to. So they feeling that there's that level of investment in there. And just going back, Larry, with the shop, kind of injecting that support and feel like they're winning stuff at our football nights. Now, what we do is we do player of the night, and they win shop vouchers. So actually, is another level of kind of all projects in Milford Youth Matters working together in that, right? Okay, I got a £10 worth of voucher. I can go get a pre-loved coat and get a hat, glove, and a coat if I need to. And by winning and having a voucher, they feel like it has some cash value. It is tangible. It's not like they go into school and go into lost property and go, "Oh, can I have another coat?" So we produced vouchers for the community as well, and given them out to the schools and said, you know, we recognise that families aren't always going to come to the school asking for support, but if they got a voucher to go to a shop, then actually that's another way of injecting support to our community.
Thank you. And James, I know you've been waiting a while. You've been very patient. What's your question?
First, I'll say, what an extraordinary story, and good on you for doing it and then working out the consequences afterwards. I think quite a few of us go on the mantra, don't ask for permission, but ask for forgiveness, because we're in the situation where we really have got to be flexible. And we're an independent charity working in around Wales, but particularly in Rhondda at the moment. I'm interested, a couple of things. Firstly, how often and how much is your pop-up shop open? And secondly, I'm assuming that some of the training with young people, as you've got the sort of cooking, is it every night of the week? You've got sort of food hygiene qualifications going in for these kids to sort of help broaden the base of people who can do the cooking and sort out the food.
Yeah, so first question, our pop-up shop is open every day. So we're open from 9:30 to around 3.
Wow.
We open on, and as we've opened occasional Saturdays as well. And what we find is, like I said, we get referrals from maybe the job centre, anybody that's not employed, or anybody that wants to volunteer. So technically our shop staff, whilst there is our core team, we do have young people in there on vocational training practice. So, you know, there's an opening checks, there's a closing checks, there's customer service qualifications that they've got to do, there's a cleaning rota. So we're using that as a training tool as well, but we are open pretty much every day. The shop as well now has almost become very much a drop-in for young people. It's very central in town. Like I said, we opened on Saturday. We had about 20 young people in here wanting to work. A lot of them were sat in the back rooms watching the football or just being with their friends because it's warm. They know that they're going to get food. There's pot noodles here and stuff like that. So customer-wise, we had no customers in because, when they see 20 young people flood in to help. But that's the kind of chicken and egg situation of that, if young people want to come in and feel safe and comfortable here, perfect. We're a service for young people. And with the food, yeah, so we are providing everybody with, that wants it, food hygiene qualifications. And we can do that by doing online qualifications. Young people can do it in their own time. They can work through it. They can sit with us and do it. So yes, there's those qualifications. We've also had some older volunteers that want to get involved as well. One gentleman seen what we was doing. We've DBS'd him, gone through the process, and he just washes up. And the kids now know him as Steve in the sink. So with they go Steve in the sink, and it's great that the whole community is getting involved and helping. But yeah, we're providing on that level as well, kind of customer service qualifications to recognise that this is what young people are doing day in, day out. That if you can do it for your mates up in a football club, when you turn 16, you can do it in a local restaurant. These are transferable skills, and it's just sometimes showing young people behind the curtain and going, oh look, you've done all this. But did you actually know you did all of this instead as well? So yeah, we provide qualifications for young people that are funded kind of by Milford Youth Matters. We've become, like I said, we've tried to be as sustainable as possible. We have trying to kind of be self-reliant really, because I worry sometimes, funders go, you can't do this, you can't do that, especially when we was working on kind of employment and training projects. Well, it had to be for 16 plus. Well, actually, we've got some 14-year-olds that want work experience. So we're trying to become more answerable to ourselves, whilst we still have funders that we are kind of, working with. We are trying to become more sustainable, and all the qualifications then are funded by us. So once again, no young person's going to get turned around. But yeah, if we make £45 in the shop, brilliant, that will fund another young person to do a food hygiene qualification. It's just we've had to get smarter in how we become more sustainable and kind of survive as a service.
Brilliant. Just to add, we have a social enterprise called Play It Against Sport, which recycles pre-loved or unwanted sports kit. We've got loads and loads of it because we were collecting still in the pandemic, and we're now starting to go out and sell very much your model, which is for most people, it's at a very low cost. but there is some money that changes hands, partly from your ethical point of view of valuing things, but also stopping landfill. And we're in the process of having community asset transfer of the library in Ferndale. This is a project that a colleague of mine is running. And so there may be possibly some movement in us coming and having a look at what you've got, whether there's sort of things that we could swap when we got the surplus of things. It'd be really interesting to visit also to see how it's running.
Yeah, brilliant. Come down. We seem to get a lot of kind of uniform trousers. We seem to get loads of, and then they quite hard to sell. So, you know, if you got up there and you say we need trousers, well, let's work together. I don't think, although we're in South West Wales, if there's another organisation in the community that's supporting somebody else in Wales, that we've got to work together, not just locally, but nationally. You know, come take a crate of trousers, please do. You know, first you get them off our hands, but also if you can support people in your community, brilliant. And yeah, we're happy to share that learning. You know, the shop when we took it over was the best way I described it to staff before they come and looked at it was a bit of an ugly duckling. We spent 3 months painting and decorating, and young people were involved in that right from the beginning. You know, when you're painting white on walls, it doesn't make it look like you're making any progress. But you know, you do learn a lot, and having that investment from young people early on. It's not the Milford Youth Matters shop; it's our shop. Young people are going, oh, we're going to our shop. Brilliant. That's what I want. That's the need. That's what young people are coming going. Oh yeah, we're part of that. We're part of this community. So yeah, feel free. And if we got surplus stock, please come down and take it. Coats, we seem to get loads of. Uniform, we're happy to share.
Brilliant, thank you.
And this is why we put on shared learning events, because we like to make connections possible, because you know, you've all got your sort of local authority boundaries that exist, but actually we can all learn from other places. And yes, we might need to adapt the idea slightly to make it fit for purpose in your area or your region, but I think that's why we do this, because we fundamentally believe that lots of the answers are already in our communities, and we try to bring them out of you all in a way that you might not be able to do so just by yourselves. Mark, I can see you put yourself off mute. Do you want to jump in with anything?
No, I was just preparing because you're probably about to say something to me, and so I was being prepared, because there's nothing worse than starting talking and then being on mute. So
perfect. Yeah, I was just going to say we were due to have another speaker, Claire from Past Maddock, join us. Unfortunately, she can't make it due to unforeseen circumstances this morning.
Nice to talk to you.
That's why we've extended the questions for Dayle a little bit. But we wanted to put you into some breakout rooms. So I'll quickly share my screen to show you the discussion questions. If you bear with me, they should come up pretty quickly now. So we've got 3 questions that we'd like you to look at in your breakout rooms. What's available in your area for supporting people with staying warm this winter? How can we ensure that support isn't just available 9 to 5 during the week, which we've kind of touched upon a little bit with our questions around the Christmas break? And then what role can activities play in providing a warm welcome? I will put these questions in the chat, and I believe Mark is gonna imminently put you into breakout rooms. Probably put you into breakout rooms for about 20 minutes or so. I can see Mark has already put them in the chat for me, so that's brilliant. So about 20 minutes and then a bit of quick feedback. But before I get you to press the button, Mark, Larry, I can see that you've put in the chat about the big lunch at Christmas this year. Is there anything you'd like to add about that? Or do you want to put a link in the chat that we can then distribute afterwards?
Oh yeah, no, I'd happily to. So it's just, I think you probably find it on thebiglunch.com or akinyamau.com. Yeah. So if you don't know, Work Eating Community is kind of most well known for doing the big lunch in the summertime, and we've never really done a winter version. But we're sort of we were like, everyone's doing one, let's make it an official thing. So yeah, encouraging people who have warm spaces to actually bring people together with food, do a little bit more than they may think about doing. And yeah, it's really just to look out for people who might be lonely, to bring generations together, and definitely to try and help things stretch a bit further. So it's kind of, yeah, if it's something that you've got on already, it might be that you want to badge it up as a sort of big lunch at Christmas so that it's part of a bigger scheme, or if you've not done something, it's an excuse to do something, hopefully. So if you've got those sorts of spaces, or if you want to do something in your community, have a look, and yeah, get in touch with me if anybody wants to know any more. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Mark. I think we're good to go with breakout rooms now. So as I say, about 20 minutes to look at all three ideally, and then some quick feedbacks to the rest of the group.
I will send you all in now, just bear with.
I think we're all just about back in the room. So how were your discussions? Good, fruitful?
Productive.
Good. I'm looking for someone from room 1 to provide a little bit of feedback, if they wouldn't mind. I don't know who was in room 1. I'm hoping you can remember which room you were put into.
I was in room 1 if you want.
Yeah, I'm happy. If you're happy to give some feedback, John, that'd be good.
I thought it was very useful, partly because we're all talking to each other. That's the main thing, is joined up thinking. I was able to get some answers, direct answers from funders, which were good. Not actual funding, but how we should go about it. So it just shows that we're all trying to do what we're all trying to do, which is to help people afford to live, and that includes myself. So yeah, all around Wales. So, and there's a bigger country, or bigger countries outside Wales as well. We're all struggling, suffering. So thank you. It was useful.
Fab, thank you for that. Is there anything in particular that your room discussed that you feel you want to share with the wider group? Any answers to the particular questions? Or
maybe Greta would like to come in. I've done my bit.
Well, can I add something? So
Sorry.
yeah, there was, it's okay, John. No, it was a good discussion, lots of networking going on, which was fantastic, but also that overarching issue about funding and the need to know about what else is out there to share that amongst one another. And I think that was sort of one of the key things, but also with regards to what's available in your area. I think what was key for people to understand, although there are pockets of things going on, I think it was felt that not to sort of miss what was already existing. And I think people felt that was so important, that they don't miss out on this potential pots of funding and the support available to continue with what they're already delivering. So that was one of sort of the key things for point 1, along with all the amazing things that are going on, support for mental health, there's food pantries, food distribution, lots of other activities that are going on. With regards to sort of that 9 till 5 issue, I think 2 of the things that came out was location. Often it's very challenging to be able to put things on in evenings and weekends, but also that lack of volunteers, which is sort of a recurring theme. Yes, I think that was kind of the gist of the conversation. Does anyone else from the group want to add anything? It's hard summarizing 20 minutes, isn't it?
Well, thank you for summarising 20 minutes. That was really, really useful from my perspective. Who was in room 2?
It was myself, James, Janet, and Michelle.
Would anyone like to provide any feedback of your discussions?
I'm happy to start us off. I didn't take very good notes, as I never do. I always recycle bits of paper and end up writing in corners here, there, and everywhere. So it's all over the page. But I did take a couple. So Janet was telling us about Invest Local, and they've got 2 warm spaces they're working on. One's in a chapel, one's in a hotel pub. They're working on setting those up. So some are going to be open just once a week, some are going to be open 3 times a week. We're working on winter warmer packs. And then what came out of the conversation more generally was that people might be a little bit reluctant to go to these warm centres, so it's probably important to have activities on to draw people in, and that might also kind of take any stigma away from attending, because people are actually going there then to meet others or for the activity, rather than admitting it's because it's to maybe stay warm and that they don't want to put the heating on at home. So we talked a little bit about activities and then also sustainability, because obviously the centres themselves, you can imagine the cost of heating a chapel is going to be astronomical. So if there's a way of making these sustainable by having things such as a pay-as-you-go, what's the term like for pay as you wish or pay as you want cafe?
Yeah,
Pay as you feel.
Pay as you feel, that's the word I'm looking for. Lovely. So yeah, that was the nature of our discussions essentially. I don't know if anybody else wants to chip in, because I'm sure I've missed lots of the 20 minutes.
I just put in the chat a couple of links. One, the UK Warm Spaces, the other one in RCT, the council. I was in a meeting with Internet Mayor Council not long ago, where we're all trying to sort of put the things into the middle, as it were, because there's all sorts of things that are overlapping. And there are also a few grants around to sort of help support. I think we have got a real challenge in helping people to access things beyond this winter as well, and yet there are loads of us doing a whole range of activities, and this is a chance to help people engage at a broader level, which came out very much from Milford Haven. It's not just one theme, is it?
One thing which I mentioned briefly, that we have supplies of information, recipe cards and everything, which are on our website. If anybody wants to tap into them, recipe cards for making, utilising slow cookers, etc. It's been so important within our pantry. So have a look. There are assets out there which we can tap into. If anybody wants to tap into ours, feel free.
That's really, really helpful, John. And I'd encourage you, if you've got any useful links that you'd like to share, please put them in the chat, or to everyone, or to myself or Mark, and we'll compile a list that we can distribute afterwards. Amy, you've got your hand up. So there's something you want to add in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know this is a good forum, but does anyone know of any other good spaces where kind of councils and people with lived experience and community groups are kind of coming together to strategize elsewhere, whether it's in a council area or whether it's Wales wide?
Where are you, Amy?
I'm in Wrexham, North Wales.
Bryony, did you mention there was a few different groups where people are coming together to discuss?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm based in RCT, Merthyr, Cardiff and Vale of Glamorgan, so I don't know how relevant, but we're really lucky in our area that we have community connectors in RCT who run neighbourhood network meetings, which bring together like members of third sector organisations and local community groups, which has been really useful. Another, we've had quite a few cost of living events locally as well, which have been really good as well. So they're the things that are going on in our area that have been really useful for joining people together, but also for reaching people that might need our service.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very similar in Monmouthshire. Sorry, yeah, we have similar in Monmouthshire to what you have in there, Bryony.
There's also with Barvo, which is Bridgends, the voluntary organisations. I mean, they've got community coordinators, etc. So it's available within the 22 counties. It's all out there. It's just a matter of finding who, what, where, and when, really.
Business in the community will be putting events on. I don't have them to hand. I was only told about them this morning. But if anybody would like to share your email in the chat, I can forward you the details as soon as they're available.
Yeah, Simon, if when you've got the details, send them to us at BCT and we can send them out as well that way. Janet, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I've just put a link in the chat that myself and Nicola, because we work together on some things, we used the Salvation Army low budget cookbook, which we've printed out for the community. So I've put the link in the chat and you can download it and print out this fantastic recipes in there, low budget, low energy as well. So
yep, we use it.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's fantastic. And what we found as well, we do get surplus foodstuffs every now and again. We try desperately not to, but we go to the Woolwich and the Salvation Army and give them like manna from heaven foodstuffs. And that's where I picked up one of their books. It was absolutely fantastic. It was an education. So it was really good. There are people out there. We got to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads going on. And I think some of the things we discussed in room 3 were that, we're all doing various different things. There's mapping taking place, but you're never going to have a complete map. Things change, things evolve. Recognizing as well, whilst it is starting to get a little bit colder, it's going to become worse. There's going to be more need in the next few months. So there was a bit of concern about whether funding would stretch to enable warm spaces to continue. Amy had some experiences where community venues had actually closed down or reduced opening hours because the costs were too high. So we're trying to do more whilst having many higher costs that mean that resources are having to close, unfortunately. In terms of evening and weekend provision, recognising again that volunteers were crucial to that, and really important to recognise the role that volunteers play in this. And there often isn't enough volunteers, and those people who are volunteering in community groups that exist are already doing possibly as much as they can do. Recognising again that there wasn't an easy answer to kind of out of hours provision. And then I don't think we didn't get as far as point 3 because we were so engrossed in discussions. I'm aware we're close to time, but Mark, you've got your hand up. What do you want to add in?
Didn't unmute myself first, did I? So should have done that. I was slow. I think my point was that we did have to cancel one of our events due to one of our speakers being unwell, and that event was specifically about community venues and keeping them open. And so we will be putting that one back on probably in the new year. So obviously, I imagine most of you are on the mailing list or on our Twitter, so we will obviously advertise it on there. But yeah, just keep an eye out for that one. Because that will be quite important for people here about trying to keep spaces open, because unless you can keep a space open, you can't, put on provision.
Thanks, that's really useful, and it's good to know that we'll be putting it on in the new year certainly. I think we're coming to a natural end for today's event, unless anyone's got anything else they'd really like to share or ask about. We would really love it if you'd give us some feedback on our events. I can see Mark has put the evaluation form in the chat. It will really help us to shape what we do in the new year. This is, as I say, part of the series, and we know that particularly the cost of living isn't going to go away anytime soon. And I can't keep up with the chat because it's flying above my eyes now, so I'm not even going to try. But thank you very much for joining us today and participating so well. It's been really useful from my perspective, and I hope you've got some benefit from joining us. So thanks once again for coming along.